welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. Today, we're going to create some miniature bonsai, which is one of my favorite activities. You can see here we have four actual variegated Portulacaria Afra. I stuck these, they were just large cuttings in the fall in here, four of them, and they've grown pretty well. And one of them in particular, I keep looking at, and I thought that will make a nice sort of a broom style miniature bonsai. It's great. You start out with a nice thick trunk with these cuttings. It's a great way to use branches you don't want on larger material. And so that's what we're going to do. It's looking good. We're going to create some miniature trees from these large cuttings that I've started. So the first thing, I want to dig the target tree out. And I have no idea how many. I don't expect a lot of roots to be in here because well, since last fall, I don't know, however long that's been, it hasn't been too long. So I'm going to gently, I kind of try to go down with the part of the spoon and lift up rather than pulling on the tree from the top. I don't know if it's safer, but it makes me feel better. So, I try to get the spoon under there and then kind of just gently pull everything up. This is my Akadama soil. And so this is the first time I've pulled a tree out that's been growing in that soil, so it'll be interesting to see what we've got. And I must have some roots based on the difficulty of getting it out. Here we go. I've got a few. Yeah, that is actually not a ton of roots, but it's more than I thought we would have. So the rest of them here, I'm just going to I really disturb this one over here. I'm just gonna you know put some, just leave these in here and allow them to keep growing. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with them yet. I'll probably just put them outside. I'm slowly moving my trees outside now and just let it grow, I don't know, at least until early summer. And, who knows? Maybe I'll make some more of these bonsai, these miniature bonsai with ones I really like, or, I tend to also give some of these away to friends because I've got too many of these, and it's kind of nice to share them. I think all succulent bonsai hobbyists eventually get to that point where it's tough, because they're so easy to propagate. You wind up with so many, and at some point you realize, wow, I can't take care of all these adequately. So it's nice to kind of move them on to people that want them. And you do have to put a rock in here, and I think that'll let that one keep growing. And let's take a look at this tree we extracted from the pot here. It's a nice one. You can see it's got a nice thick stumpy trunk. You get some instant I don't know, it's kind of charming. You get some instant age. It's got some roots here. I'm not going to try I'm not going to cut the roots, or I may do a little bit to the top, but I just like to get the tree in their new home, let them stabilize before I do anything. I just, you don't have to do that, but I found that's the quickest recovery period and strongest, chance of survival. But you can see we've got a nice broom style here, and I think this tree will be quite nice. So I'm going to first try this pot, which is the pot I've been thinking about, when I first considered potting this tree up. Let me adjust the camera a little bit here. I had a previous tree in this pot, another video, and lots of people really liked it. And, I never really was that crazy about this pot, and based on their comments, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I just don't have the right tree in it, and I think this might be the right tree, but I want to always look at another option. This is a nice Yamaki kiln pot, which is quite beautiful. And I think that would work, maybe, but I like the blue one better. Oh, this is nice. I like how it's about the right size, and the pot color really complements the leaves. But I think I am mentally married to this blue pot, maybe. But that really looks nice. That's the green pot's made by a local bonsai artist here in Seattle. That's a member of our club. I bought one of those at a club sale. So we're going to go with this blue one. I've already prepared the pot. I like to use a wire with these kind of fastened to the bottom of the pot because I don't know. I just find it's a very easy way to keep the tree stationary until it kind of grows enough roots to hold itself, and it allows me to easily, change the angle of the tree when I'm getting it initially situated. And it just looks good. It looks better than. Um, I mean, I think rocks look good too, and sometimes I honestly use both, but usually with these smaller ones, the wire is about adequate. So I'm just trying to get the height down. I'm not going to do anything with the roots. We'll just kind of get them going out radially and go from there. And I think I'm just trying to see the angle. I definitely want it, I think, off to the left or the right. Uh, and it's pretty much gonna the trunk has a little bit of a bend to it, and I think I want to showcase that because I think it's just a little more interesting than you know just going straight up. Uh, so I think this is a reasonable enough front to start with. Let's put it that way. So I'm just going to wrap the wire, not tightly, but just kind of gently around here. And I usually kind of start, I found if you start low and wrap it around, it does a pretty good job of um, holding the tree in place. So I think that looks pretty good. When I put more soil in here, it'll stabilize up. I'm trying to lift it a bit too. I don't really have any surface roots yet, but I don't want the tree, you know, any lower than it has to be. And again, I'm just going to use my Akadama soil, the same stuff that it was growing in. It seems to be doing well, and I'm just going to stick with it until I find a reason not to. It's about half Akadama and half lava and pumice. Um, so I'm just filling it up, and I have a pretty good thought for the day that was prompted by a question. So I'm going to start it early because I think I'm going to have to talk a lot, and it'll be something good to listen to while I am working in this soil. So a listener asked, how do you keep the tree the same size? Like he wants to keep it small. He's got it where he wants it, and the short answer is, you don't. Like plants, basically all plants, and including trees. There may be a few minor exceptions. I mean, they've got to grow or they'll die. And so for trees, that you're happy with, you may call them developed. You're what you want to do in that case is try to slow the growth down, keep the tree as healthy as possible, not weak, but not vigorous, right? Because that is going to slow the growth and slow the development so you can keep the tree in that stage for a longer period of time. Um, and during development, well, you don't want to let it rip, right? Because you're growing branches, you're cutting it back, and you're continuing to develop primary branches, secondary branches. You want lots of ramification, which is, where your branches are going from one to two again and again, so you get a nice full looking canopy. And, so you're happy to just let it grow. So what do? Like you have a tree that you're happy with. You've been growing it out. Now you sort of want to stop that growth and sort of freeze it in time, which you really can't do if you want the tree to remain healthy and alive. And so you just have to understand it's a continuous process, right? So you sort of develop the tree, you're starting with something that's very sparse, and then you're building out the trunk, the roots, and the branches. And then one day you decide it's perfect, and then you sort of want to stop by giving it maybe less water, less fertilizer, more compact soil. Um, maybe have it a bit more root bound, so you're kind of slowing development, which sort of by definition makes the tree less healthy. I mean, again, it has to grow or die, and so at some point, like when you're doing those techniques I just talked about and doing some pruning, that stops working, and the tree's starting to either no look doesn't look good anymore because it's grown too much, or its health starts to fail and suffer. And at that point, you generally you have to do some major cutting back to branches that are well developed. I mean, it's painful to cut off some of these branches that are quite beautiful. and you take a few steps back in order to keep the tree alive and healthy, and then you regrow branches, and maybe you cut most of the top out, so you're regrowing that, and you're sort of doing strategic pruning. And then you kind of grow it out again and get something you're happy with, and then try to stabilize it. And that's the process. So the tree is continually growing and evolving, and you're working with it, and you're going through this growth pruning, major pruning, start it all over again, you know, matrix like cycle, right? And yeah, it's a continuous process, and the tree will constantly change, and that's just how it is. But the good news is, the trunk and those lower branches, they just get more and more thick and convincing and beautiful looking. Uh, and so that's the plus side of it. So one last thing I want to say for this momentous thought for the day is, another trick related to this is exactly what I've done here and why I want to mention it. And you can do what I've done with this tree. This cutting came from a mother tree where this entire tree that we're planting here was the top of a branch that I sort of cut off and then treated as a cutting and rooted and allowed it to grow, and it essentially becomes a whole new tree. But you're starting out with a nice thick trunk, and so it's a great way with to do a large cutting with succulents, or you can do air layers with other kinds of trees, which is a bit more involved, and not every tree likes to be air layered, but many of them do. And you can create an instant tree that gives you a jump on that nice trunk, and also helps in reducing and scaling back the size of the potentially overgrown mother tree. So, wow, that was a long one, and I hope I explained it well. And let's get back to this tree. So there it is, all potted up. Let's take a quick look at it. I think it's come out pretty well. You can see this pot really has some age and character. You can tell this one has been in the sun a lot. I think it looks pretty good. I mean, I'm just charmed by this. I think I am going to do a little pruning on the top, just because I mean it's super healthy and has lots of foliage there. So we'll just do a minor tune-up, and then, as I said, we'll let the tree recover and hopefully get it outside soon. I think I can probably reduce this a bit on this side. Maybe here. And yeah, I really think that is quite a little charmer. And yeah, I can't wait for it to continue growing and developing. And we're going to do another tree today as well. But I'm really happy with the way that this one has turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments. So the second tree we're going to work on is sort of a repot of this is a little forest that I put together. I don't know how long ago. And I've never been all that happy with it. I honestly think I love the pot. I mean, this is just a beautiful Japanese pot. Um, and I just love it. But the fort, I think the pot's too big for this, and I haven't been too happy with the forest. So, but I really like this main tree, which I think has a lot of potential. So my plan is to take out the main tree and put it as a standalone tree and develop that for a while and see how it goes. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the other two yet, but first I'm going to get the rocks out here and we will extract this tree. Again, I want to be kind of careful when I'm taking a tree out, because I don't plan on this tree hasn't been in here all that long. I've kind of lost track, but I don't plan on really doing any root pruning. I just want to get it into a new pot. I've got some wire in here that was holding it in. Get rid of that. And I've had this happen to me a few times where, I don't know, maybe we should create a bonsai hobbyist term for it, but it's where you get a new pot and you're just so in love with it and so excited with it, you want to put it to use right away. And I had a lot of fun with this. Boy, this one has got more roots than I thought. It has been in here, I don't know, maybe a little longer than I thought, maybe a year. Um, I think it spent most of its time growing roots in here because there's a lot of root room, particularly for a small succulent in this pot. But yeah, this has got more roots than I thought. This is a super, super dry soil I have this in. I don't, there's no akadama in this, but I think, again, I'm going to use my akadama mix because I have a lot of it, and it's been working well. And yeah, so this one has got more roots than I thought. We'll see. I may do a little root pruning. We'll see which pot I pick, and if that needs to happen, I don't want to prune the roots if I don't have to. All right, got it out of there. Not a ton of roots, but certainly more than the last tree. So I'll move this aside, and we will take a look at this. Well, it's going to be a specimen tree. Had a few roots kind of fall off there. Like I said, I don't know what I'm going to do with that one yet, but we'll just put it aside for now and take a look at this tree. It's developed pretty well here. I mean, it's got a pretty flat radial root structure. So yeah, I'm not going to touch that. We will just pot it on and go from there. I think in terms of roots, I will do a little. This is kind of growing just kind of right out and poking at us. I'm at least going to shorten it off and just do a little tune-up on some of these that are going the wrong way. But like I think I mentioned before, I like to, it's the leaves are nice and plump and full of roots now, so I kind of like to, or full of water. I like to give the tree as much of that as possible because typically when I repot, I stress them a little bit. And so, I find that if they have moisture in here, it helps them grow new roots and recover more quickly. So just a little bit of a little bit of pruning there. And I think this one's looking pretty good. So let's take a look at some pots. So I have this green pot. Again, I really like it. Um, I think especially a small pot with some gloss on it like this, it's just charming. But I also had a pot in mind I wanted to use. This is a Yamaki kiln pot, which I just found out recently that kiln shut down years ago. I got this pot for not a lot of money, so I'm sort of surprised by that. I was charmed by you can't tell so much in the video, but you touch this pot, it just has a nice feel to it. It's really well made. It's got a lot of detail. It's just it's like a piece of art or something. Um, and I'm just trying to see where I want it. I think again, I'm going to go off center. I usually don't go a bit to the right here, uh, but I think that's going to work with this one. But again, Yamaki pot. If you see these around, that kiln is no longer making pots. So if you like it, you better get it because they'll just get harder and harder to find. I'm just gonna round this out so that the roots aren't running down the side of the pot on day one. I think that looks pretty good. And I do think the positioning will go slightly to the right. I'm just twisting the tree to decide exactly where I want the front. And I think about this would look pretty good. So I've got the pot already. Again, I have a wire in here, which is what I like to use. And I will start shoveling in the soil. Oh, so this is interesting. Where I buy the soil, he puts in these free kind of, it's like a Cracker Jack box, right? You're digging in the soil, and these will randomly be in there, and it's quite nice because they're round, and I just save them and use those for the drainage hole screens. I'm just gonna size this up. I think I'm gonna go not super high, but fairly high, and then just kind of pile soil up around here and let it go. I found these, they don't mind growing surface roots that are even in the air. They'll thicken up for you. I think as long as these succulents, as long as there's growth happening up top, they will just create roots, happily create roots in all kinds of situations. I think that's a good placement right there. Maybe a wee bit taller. So I'll just shovel some of this in and just kind of gently put the roots where I want them. And you kind of want the roots, you don't want them sticking straight up. You may as well cut them off if that happens because they'll just dry out and die. And you sort of want your roots to start at the base of the tree and go down, like roots grow in nature. Sometimes you'll see roots that don't do that, but it just looks better. I think if you can manage that, and sort of mounding the tree up helps. So I think this is where I want it. Sadly, my wire is a little short for this one, but we will just work with it. Trying to get the angle right. I think that looks pretty good. You always want to look at it from all angles and, get your roots going in the right direction if you can. You can even push these down like this and they'll kind of stay there if you get some soil on them, and there's no need to cut them off if you can bend them and they will stay once they start growing again. So I think this is pretty good placement, so I'm just going to start shoveling in some soil. Maybe take a few more roots that are coming out over the side there. But again, I have not taken much root off of this. And it's kind of funny with the pots. This pot looks, it looks a little big to me now, but I mean, you can see the branches. I really want to kind of build them out and have them go out another third or so of their size. So I think when that happens, it'll look about the right size. So I always just kind of dump some soil in and then work it in a bit. This one has a few more roots. So I'll spend a little bit of time, more time working it in than the previous tree, which didn't really have much to work soil into. But it's funny on pots, just to come back to that topic for a minute. The longer I do this, the more obsessed I become with pots. Like, and not even like expensive pots, just pots that, it's kind of like a tree. Like you see the right pot, and kind of sparks go off in your brain, and you just know it when you see it, and over time you have more and more of those, and then when you get old like me, you forget about half of them, and then you get to rediscover them in the back of the pot shelf or whatever. So it's really charming. I really have, like I said, the longer I do this, the more I appreciate pots. Mostly handmade pots. I sort of like pots that are unique either because they're handmade, and so each one is going to be different, or they're mass produced but really aged, like the first one, the first tree we did, where, you just get, again, it becomes unique even if they were identical to a previous pot because the way it ages is different. And so I have quite a few of those that I just really like, and that's the other end of the spectrum, getting a sort of a cheap pot with a lot of age and patina is just fascinating to me. Um, or, kind of a more of an artistic pot like this, which is a bit more expensive. Um, and if you can combine those two things, well, then you sometimes have pretty amazing pots. So I'm just pushing this in a bit, and I think we're getting close to done on this one. You can see, I think it looks pretty good already. I'm just going to let it grow out and go crazy. I have most of the branches kind of going in the right direction. I just need to let this thing really take off and then just start the prune grow cycle. I'm going to mound up some soil to help those roots get nice and fat under there. And with that, I think it's pretty much a wrap. I think this one also turned out nicely. And I hope that you enjoyed this, how to make some instant miniature bonsai trees. And I thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon.